Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and several former ministers, including former Conservative Attorney General Dominic Grieve, have been warning about some Tory and Reform UK politicians endangering trials with their immigration hysteria. But of course, this has been led very much by Nigel Farage, who has spent years developing a way to present BNP talking points in a way which the general population won't associate with racist thugs. And it's worth just looking at the specific techniques he's used in order to be aware when others are using the same three techniques to divide communities against one another. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So Nigel Farage has clearly been one of the most influential and one of the most controversial figures in British politics for decades. His speeches electrify his supporters. They dominate entire news cycles. They push the national conversation in directions that make a lot of people very uncomfortable. He's built a career, and several political parties, on a foundation of very potent populist and, let's be honest, terrifying language. But how does he actually do it? How does Nigel Farage consistently command so much attention and build such a dedicated, loyal following, even while using language that many people find very divisive? How does a man who's spent much of his career on the political fringes where he should have been left find himself at the very centre of the debate? You see phrases like societal collapse, culture under siege, flashing across your screen. You hear stop the boats repeated endlessly, and you wonder, what's the strategy behind it all? Well, it's about the words he uses. It's a deliberate, calculated, very effective rhetorical strategy. And in this video, I'm going to go over the anatomy of those speeches to show you the blueprint he uses to scare and persuade a nation, because it's really very paint by numbers once you understand it. And to get a real handle on Farage's power, you have to understand that language. It's not just a random collection of sound bites. It's a very carefully constructed narrative. He doesn't speak off the cuff. Every single word has been worked out well in advance, carefully crafted. It's why he gets so tetchy when someone asks him real questions or they follow up on questions, because he's not able to debate. He's just using these phrases that have been worked out over a long time. And he uses three key techniques that form the bedrock of all of his communications. First, he creates a relentless narrative of crisis. Second, he builds a powerful us versus them world. And third, his mastery of the weaponization of simplicity. So the first pillar of Nigel Farage's rhetoric is the creation of a permanent, escalating sense of crisis. Political language doesn't just describe reality. For its audience, it's creating it. Farage is a master of what we call framing. He doesn't just present problems. He frames the entire country as a nation on the brink, a society in the final stages of collapse. Take one of his most powerful phrases, that British culture is directly under threat or under siege, or more recently, Britain is lawless. Now, this isn't the language of a policy debate. It's the language of war. A siege is an active, very aggressive, existential threat. When you're told you're under siege, the only logical response is to fight back. It's fight back or die, right? Like the situation Ukraine's in. You find a strong defender to save you. This framing elevates a political disagreement into a battle for national survival. It raises the stakes for the people who believe in it. This narrative is then woven through everything he talks about. He recently warned that Britain is facing nothing short of societal collapse, his words. He talks of a deep sense of unease that something is going very, very, very wrong with the country. Now, this isn't just about high taxes or wait times for the NHS. It's the language of existential dread. He paints a picture of a country whose very identity is disintegrating. He's claimed that in many parts of England, you don't hear English spoken anymore. It's a statement designed to trigger a sense of cultural alienation and loss in his target audience. It doesn't matter that it's not true. This crisis narrative is applied most powerfully to immigration, of course. In Farage's world, immigration's not a complicated socio-economic issue to be managed. No. It's the overwhelming force causing the collapse he describes. He's claimed some migrants are coming here to take us over. They talk about fighting age men. It's explicitly tied is tying immigration now to rising crime and the erosion of what he calls our laws, culture and civility. His party, Reform UK, officially frames immigration as a direct threat to your wages, your public services, the nation's core identity. The goal of the language is to create a constant state of emergency. When your house is on fire, you don't debate the finer points of plumbing, you scream for the fire brigade. By framing Britain as a nation ablaze, Farage positions himself as the only one who will sound the alarm and, crucially, the only one who will put out the fire. He calls for critical reforms needed in the first 100 days. They're not just policies. He hasn't called for any policies. He's calling for emergency procedures, radical actions made necessary by the disaster he has so vividly painted. It's a strategy designed to make extreme solutions seem not only reasonable, but essential. And once you've established a crisis, you need someone to blame. That brings us to the second pillar of Farage's rhetoric, the creation of an us versus them world. It's one of the oldest tricks in the populist playbook, of course. In fact, populism is defined as identifying an enemy to unite other people around. That's what populism is. Simplifying a complex world into a straightforward morality play. The good, virtuous people versus the corrupt, malicious forces set against them. First, Farage carefully defines us. Us is the silent majority, he says, the decent, hard-working, common-sense people of Britain. He talks about our country, our values, the need to save the country we love. He doesn't ever say what those values are. He doesn't ever say what the country is or what these people are. He builds what political analysts call an in-group. It's a community of people who feel forgotten, ignored, looked down upon, cultivates a deep sense of shared grievance, tells them he knows they feel the country is going down the tubes. He's not just another politician, he's one of them, fighting their corner. Then he defines them, the out group. This is a powerful and versatile enemy with many faces. Them is the out-of-touch political class in Westminster, the dishonest Conservative and Labour parties who've supposedly broken Britain. Them is the metropolitan elite who sneer at ordinary people's concerns. Them is the mainstream media, who have basically created Nigel Farage, but he accuses them of peddling fake news and engaging in election interference to shut him up. This them also includes a whole host of cultural enemies. Reform UK's official documents packed with attacks on woke ideology, left-wing bias, politically correct ideology, which they claim threatens your personal freedoms. This extends to institutions, with Farage promising to go to war with the NEU, other left-wing teaching unions for supposedly indoctrinating children. The them category, of course, also includes immigrants and minority groups. His infamous breaking point poster during the Brexit campaign showing a queue of non-white refugees was a classic visual us versus them rhetoric, even though the only sort of immigrants you could possibly stop coming into the country as a result of Brexit would be white ones. More recently, he claimed that many young Muslims loathe much of what we stand for, a statement that's been widely condemned for painting an entire community as hostile. But he links immigration directly to crime and cultural decay. He solidifies this idea of an outside group threatening the us on the inside. The psychological effect of all this is quite profound. It forges an incredibly strong, loyal bond between Farage and his supporters. He's not just a political choice. He is their champion in this existential struggle. Every attack on him, whether from the media or the politicians, people like me, doesn't weaken him in the eyes of his followers, it strengthens him. It just proves he's the brave truth teller he claims to be, the only one willing to stand up to the powerful them. This story of persecution and struggle, of a revolt against the elites, is central to his appeal and turns political support into something that feels more like a crusade. So you've got your crisis, you've got your villain. The final piece of the strategy is how you package it all. That's the third pillar, the weaponization of simplicity. So in today's fast-paced media world, complexity is an absolute killer. Nuance gets ignored. People don't want nuance. They don't want to be told, actually, the situation is quite complex. That sounds patronizing, right? They don't want to be told, oh, this, we can have this solution, but it has these drawbacks. No. They want simple, perfect solutions because some people are telling them these exist, so they listen to those people. You've got detailed policy papers, no one reads them. They want a simple, punchy, emotional slogan that can cut through the noise, burn itself into public consciousness. Farage is a master of the simple slogan. You just think about his most famous phrases like, things that came from the Brexit campaign. Take back control was adopted by the likes of Boris Johnson. Stop the boats by Rishi Sunak. Britain is broken by Nigel Farage. These are rhetorical weapons. They're short, active, easy to remember and repeat. They work because they act like containers for all the bigger, more complex ideas of crisis and division that he's already built. Stop the boat's perfect example. On the surface, it's a simple 3-word goal, but it carries the entire weight of his crisis narrative. It doesn't just mean stopping small boats in the channel. It's shorthand for the whole story he wants to tell about uncontrolled immigration, national security threats, cultural erosion, the failure of the establishment. When a supporter says that phrase, they're not just repeating a slogan, they're summoning this entire worldview that Farage has constructed for them. This is a world away from the language of serious politicians, which is so often cautious, qualified, full of jargon, where another politician might talk about addressing the root causes of irregular migration through international cooperation. Farage just says, stop the boats. It's direct, it's decisive. It sounds like a solution, even if the reality will not work out as he claims. A bit like with Trump in America. He says he's delivering on what his people wanted. No, he's not. And neither will Farage. And it's this blunt clarity that runs through his entire political platform. Freeze non-essential immigration, slash energy bills, restore law and order. All sounds simple. And this simplicity is deliberately contrasted with the perceived dishonesty of the political class, who sound like they're just coming up with excuses. He presents himself as the guy who will just get it done, cut through the red tape, political correctness, that he claims holds Britain back. Critics call it simplistic, but to his supporters, it's common sense. The slogans are designed to be shared on social media, chanted at rallies. Really very easy. They are the delivery system for the fear he has so carefully cultivated. So you put all this together. You see a clear rhetorical architecture at work. It begins by framing Britain as a nation in a deep existential crisis. Its very identity is under siege. Then it simplifies that crisis into a moral battle between the people and a corrupt establishment, along with the threatening outsiders they've let in. Finally, it packages this entire story into a short, simple, powerful slogan that's easy to understand. You can remember it, you can repeat it. The result is a political narrative that is absolutely terrifying, but incredibly persuasive to those who feel left behind. It's a style of rhetoric that replaces complex policy with moral certainty and nuanced debates with a clear call to arms. By understanding the mechanics of the language, the crisis framing, the creation of enemies, the power of simplicity, you can move beyond just reacting to the fear, you can begin to critically analyse the political landscape that these words are helping to shape. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams of behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.